My name is Ian and welcome to Planted. Now in this video I've got 3 subjects I want to talk to you about that I think will help you with your horticultural endeavours this year. It's very easy to jump in with lots of enthusiasm, and after a few months perhaps you haven't had the results that you thought you were going to get, and it can be a little bit disappointing. So I've got 3 subjects I want to share with you, and I would encourage you to listen to all 3 and see how they apply to you, and then start to make steps so that you can have the success that they outline, or rather, or possibly, you don't make the mistakes that they outline. It is very productive, very easy, but we all fall into it. Let's go. Now the first thing I want to talk to you about is gardening with intent. And this might sound a little ambiguous or difficult to apply to your situation. But here we are in the middle of winter. I'm in the northeast in Connecticut, and it's frosty. We've had some snow, we've got more snow coming. And it's very easy to think that there's no gardening that you can do now, and that your gardening will come in later in spring, early summer. And that's true. But gardening with intent is having a plan and sticking to it. Now your plan might be, I'm going to do nothing in January, nothing in February, March, April. Early May, I'm going to go out to the garden centre, buy whatever I can, chuck it in the garden and hope it works. That is not gardening with intent. That's gardening with hopeless enthusiasm and optimism, and maybe it'll give you what you want. So gardening with intent is having a plan, breaking it up into small, easy steps, and following through so that you get 100% success. And a good example of this would be with tomatoes. There's a good friend of mine, and every year she grows her own tomato plants from a packet of seed. And on a number of occasions we've had this conversation about how many tomato plants she's grown, and she doesn't have space for them, and her windowsills are full and they're getting long and leggy, but it's the same thing the year after, and then the year after. And what I want to explain to you is that if you are going to garden with intention, you intentionally need to decide how many tomato plants you need. And it might be that you want 4 plants, and you could logistically easily go out and buy 4 plants of each of a different variety, giving you 4 varieties with lots of variation. And with 4 tomato plants, you'll have all the plants, all the fruit you could possibly want. If you go and buy a packet of seed, and it's not only tomatoes, it can be any plant, the chances are that in that packet of seed will be a lot more plants than you need. But gardening with intention would be sowing 3 or 4 seeds, getting 1 or 2 to germinate, and potting up 1 plant and having it grow. Rather than falling into the trap, well, the packet's got 25 seeds, I'm going to sow them all, and I'll give the plants away. That is going to use up a huge amount of your time and your effort keeping those plants alive so that you can then give them away. And it will undoubtedly take up space, resources, and time that prevent you from doing something else. So if you want to grow 100 tomato plants, you better have a lot of space for it. If you want to grow 4 tomato plants, just grow 4 tomato plants. And let that be a very intentional activity. It takes up this much space. You can actually sow those in 4 separate pots, 2 or 3 seeds in 4 separate pots for your 4 varieties. And when you get the strongest seedling germinate, you pinch out the others, and there's your 4 plants, and that's all you need. And gardening with intention would mean that then those plants can get optimum growing conditions so that they don't get long and lanky. So we all fall into the trap of spring's coming and let's buy stuff. But if it doesn't work for you, then it's wasting your time and wasting your money. So think about gardening with intention and try and come up with some of those things that you do that are a little bit of a knee-jerk. They're not quite as well thought out as you would think they are. And try and make some good decisions so that you do start gardening with intention rather than by chance. So I hope that helps. You've only got a set number of dollars and a set number of hours in a week, and you've got no more. And if you are biting off more than you can chew, literally, by having too big of a job to fit into too small of a time frame, it's not fun. and it doesn't work. So I would encourage you to reassess that process. So that is gardening with intent. The next subject I want to talk about is having a master plan for your year. Just like with gardening with intent, it's very difficult to restrain your activities and just focus on a key job. Sometimes the job gets bigger and bigger and then you get overwhelmed. Well, this next step is proven to work. It does discipline you, but you have much better control over your money that you spend on your project and also the scheduling of the job. So let's say that this year you're tired of what you did last year and the year before, and you've identified a project that you want to get done. Now that can be relevant to many of us. The way you tackle this is divide that big project into 3 bite-sized pieces. You do a bite-sized project in late spring, you do a bite-sized project in midsummer, and then you do a bite-sized project in the fall. Now I hear you screaming at me, but I want it done. I understand, but that's what you've probably done in the past and didn't work out so good. By chopping up your big project into 3 manageable projects, you end up with a very easy beginning, middle, and end. And then when the first phase is finished, you can actually see how it looks before you start that next phase in the summer. I am constantly asked by my clients and customers and friends and family about a certain project and when they should do it. And this typically comes in late May because it's springtime. All the garden centers are full of plants and you're itching to get going. But they don't have the discipline to break it up into equal projects. Well, it might be, say, a 30% project, a 30% project, and a 40%. But you get the gist of it. Let's say you want to have an entertaining area. Well, your first job would be to clear the area that you've got, put down a hard surface. It could be a patio, it could be a deck, whatever it is. And that's one project, and you start it and you finish it. You don't start buying plants for it when you're building it. That will come later. That could be a summer project. And let's say that you want to add a beautiful pergola. Well, that would be the fall project. So now you've got, build your hard surface, put some plants in, and I mean pots and the like, the sort of ornamental planting and the surrounding area. Then you can build your pergola, and you might add a few more plants in the fall to go on that pergola. But in a 6-month period, build the hard surface, put the plants in, add the pergola, add a few more plants, and there's your job done. Rather than trying to go out and do it all at once. So have a plan, break it into equal steps, and your money will go further. It'll be much more enjoyable, primarily because you can see a finished product before you commit to starting the next project. And I think that is really easy and very sound advice. The third subject I want to talk to you about is watering. This subject, I think I get the most questions ever about watering. And people think, the way they ask the question, it's one of, well, how much water do I give a week? Do I water once a week? Do I water 5 times a week? And it's as if the number of times a week is a bit like taking medicine. You take 1 tablet a day for 5 days. That is not how it works with plants. My last week's video, I talked to you about overwintering tender plants and how I keep them on the dry side. The water requirement for them is very minimal. Now what I have here to show you are 2 plants that are loving the beautiful 70-degree conditions in my new greenhouse. And as you see, they put out a lot more foliage and they're very, very actively growing. This one's even got some flowers on it. Look at that. This is a salvia and this is a euphorbia. So these plants are not dormant. They're getting growing conditions that require them to have more water because they can evaporate more water. So the easy answer to the question about the number of times that you water, it's not the times that you water, it's the ability for you to make water available to the plant. If I had a gallon watering can and I poured all of it on top of this plant, a small amount of it would get into the growing medium and the vast majority of it would run away. So although I've given it 1.5 gallons of water, it's only got access to that water that I put inside the pot. The rest of it's gone. That's the problem with growing plants in pots. They're limited to the size of the root ball. Now this plant, growing in the ground, if I put the 1.5 gallons on top of it, the small amount will go into the root ball immediately, but the rest of it's got the chance to soak into the surrounding area and become available to the plant to grow, available to the plant to take in that water. So availability of water is what you should be focused on. And don't forget, I know it's so obvious, plants are alive, they're growing, they're transpiring, they have a system to take up water, a system to take up nutrients, so we get rewarded with these fabulous flowers. So you might have in springtime that crazy madness of going out and buying lots of plants, and for the next 3 weeks you're very diligent at watering them, and then the rest of your life gets in the way and they start to suffer because they've no longer got available water. Start small, learn on really easy plants. Things like this salvia are absolutely bulletproof. You could not water this, the whole thing would shrivel up, it would drop its leaves, but you could cut it back, stick it in a bucket of water and properly rehydrate it, and it would grow back. So salvia are a great plant to practice. So let's just recap. Please garden with intention. Make it a deliberate choice not to wait to the last minute and buy everything you can find. That's the first thing. The next is, in developing a project, chop it up into 3 easy steps. Complete step 1 early in the season, complete step 1 in the middle of the season, complete step 2 later. Now, of course, if you wanted to, you could truncate it and push it a little bit closer, but don't bite off more than you can chew. And the last point is watering. It's not the times of water that you give it, it's the ability for you to make water available for the plant so that it can take it in. Small root ball, small storage. Put this in the ground and it's got a lot more access to water. And these living things will literally die in your hands if you don't take care of that watering requirement. So that's it for now. Thank you so much for watching. I really enjoy doing these videos. Hope that you can share this with your friends and family, and you might take these 3 points to heart, and this year could be the year where you have outstanding success. Bye for now.